Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today we shall be doing a different kind of video and hopefully starting a new video series on the channel. Similar to my Blu-ray and DVD updates, there are a lot of titles that I do stream that I don't feature in Blu-ray and DVD updates since I don't have them on a physical copy to show in the video. And so this is going to be a start of looking at titles that I have recently streamed. And so I've put together a list of a couple of TV shows and movies that I've really enjoyed as of late that I thought would be worth sharing on the channel, and we'll try and maybe do these videos bi-monthly in between Blu-ray and DVD updates, so then there is at least something consistent on the channel to discuss further recommendations. So by all means, let us begin. Starting off, we have the first 6 episodes of the recent Star Wars Disney Plus series, that being Andor, a prequel to another prequel, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, an absolutely phenomenal movie. Honestly, the best thing that Disney Star Wars has put out. I very much enjoyed what this film had to offer. And the Andor series, when it was first announced, I didn't really have any opinions on it other than it just seemed kind of sort of unnecessary for a prequel to surround Cassian Andor as a character in particular. Not that there's really anything wrong with that character, it's just someone that I felt was rather disinteresting and served his purpose in this movie. But the more we learned about this project, the more we learned about what was going on behind the scenes, how it was being filmed on proper location-based sets compared to just using the volume like any other Star Wars project has used, such as Mando, Boba Fett, or even Obi-Wan Kenobi. Led under the show creator Tony Gilroy, the man that was responsible for the reshoots of Rogue One and overall perfecting this movie, he really has a lot to offer the Star Wars universe, and the way that he has purposefully created Andor as a show that is very much a slow burner. That seems to be a criticism of this series, but personally, I find that to be a strength. He has gone ahead and created something that is so vastly different to what we are used to when it comes to Disney Plus Star Wars content, that it's very much more adult-focused and very story-driven, in this slow burn of looking at Cassian Andor as a character, as an example of an underdog struggling under the tyranny of the Empire, but also showing us the early years of the Empire itself and how the inner workings of that political system were overall forming, and then its downfall seems to be its overall trajectory taking us into the Rogue One series. I like the structure of the show of what we have seen thus far, with 2 episodes of each story arc of just pure exposition, and then 1 payoff episode. And although it is slow, I like how all these minor details really do matter in the long run. And we see that in particular with the first set of episodes reinventing the character of Cassian compared to what we have seen in Rogue One, where he goes on the run after murdering 2 security officers who were really just an inconvenience getting in his way of him trying to find his sister. And this puts him on a wanted list where security officers of the Pre-War Authority, including a really interesting character I'm hoping we will see a lot more of, being Cyril Khan, he takes a personal interest in finding Cassian, really to make a statement for the greater good, which is quite interesting. And leading us into the second story arc, Cassian manages to escape with the help of a character called Luthen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, a great Swedish actor. And taking us into this second story, he is enlisted to help with an Imperial heist, successfully stealing 80 million credits from the Empire. And this was a fantastic continuation, showing how vulnerable the Empire is. And I love the split character that Luthen has, where we see him as part of the rebellion, but then he also has this sort of front persona, showing him as an antiques dealer on Coruscant, which I'm really hoping we get more of that character. He's very enigmatic, and definitely one of my favourite points of the Andor series thus far. Next up, we have a show from Apple TV, which I had heard great things about, and I kind of put off checking it out, but I really wish I'd watched this a lot sooner, and that is Severance, which thus far we've only had 1 season of this, 9 episodes in total, and it's one of the best shows I have seen in recent years, an incredible start to what I'm hoping will be a very fruitful show, to say the least, with a really unique dystopian setting focusing on a surgical procedure available known as being severed to sever your mind and split your personality between a workplace life and your home life. And although the home versions of these characters appear happy and accepting of this, it's not as though this is something that is involuntary. They are happy to go ahead with this procedure. The work psyches, or innies as they are known, they want out of this. They want nothing to do with this. And what I love about this series is how we progressively learn about this interesting interpretation of the world within this office and how these characters are so confined and constrained. And it's almost as though anything that's like a foreign object, such as a book or anything that allows them to learn more about the outside world, is a gift in itself. And this really does enhance the characters wanting to obviously escape from this really bizarre corporate prison. And the main character of Mark, played by Adam Scott, only starts to question these principles when a new person is brought into the workplace, that being Helly, played by Britt Lower. And she does not want anything to do with what is going on in terms of being part of this work-based project, not even knowing what her job is meant to be. And so her severed mind, she wants freedom, and she starts asking questions which challenges the morality. Even though this is voluntary, is this a fair thing to do? And that's more or less where the plot continues, wanting these characters to escape and find out what is on the outside of the real world. This first season ended with quite the brutal cliffhanger, as I would like to call it, with a huge revelation for the main character, Mark. And I cannot wait to see how that continues and unravels as the next batch of episodes goes on. As far as when Season 2 is coming out, there's no official release date. Supposedly it is being filmed currently, so I would imagine mid to late 2023 with that. So plenty of chance to catch up. I would definitely advise adding this one to your watch list. It's something that you do not want to miss out on, a phenomenal sci-fi inspired drama.
Hello.
Next up we have episodes 1 through to 6 of Rick and Morty Season 6. Overall, not terrible, but nothing special story-wise or really consistently all that funny either. There are a couple of episodes I did enjoy in particular, which I thought I would highlight, the first of which being the continuation from the incredible Season 5 finale, that being Solarix. And apart from the bit where Space Beth saves Rick and Morty at the start from the crumbling citadel, I overall really enjoyed what this episode had to offer, with it giving us so many throwbacks to earlier seasons and earlier episodes. Seeing the original Jerry in the Cronenberg world was phenomenal, and this episode did a great job at establishing Rick Prime as the new main villain of the Rick and Morty series, which I'm hoping to see a lot more of that compared to what we have seen of other episodes. Another highlight that I really enjoyed was an episode called Night Family, which felt very horror-inspired, with some great concepts looking at Rick introducing alien tech to the rest of the Smith family, which allows the Smith family to live and do certain chores in their sleep, basically becoming sleep zombies, only for Rick to upset the Night family, which then leads to conflict between the day and night versions of the Smith family. Some interesting and somewhat thought-provoking ideas. As far as the rest of the episodes went, to be honest, not all that interesting. More incest bullshit, similar to Season 5, which if you want to hear my rant on that, by all means check out my Season 5 review. At the minute, Rick and Morty is on a brief hiatus until November, so I'll likely feedback some brief thoughts on the rest of the season once the episodes have been released in a future installment of this style of video, so by all means keep an eye out for that coming later down the line. Next up we have Season 10 and Season 11 of Archer, a show that I wasn't really consistently watching when the new seasons were released. I was kind of just relying on the DVDs whenever they dropped. And unfortunately, they stopped with the second Coma season, Danger Island, which I wasn't a massive fan of the Coma season idea to begin with anyway, where at the end of Season 7 there was a doppelganger of Archer, and when we were under the impression that the doppelganger has been defeated, turns out it was the real Sterling Archer that was put in a coma, and that this was a cybernetic version of Archer. really twisted storyline, but that spawned into the Coma seasons, where we have Dreamland, a sort of noir detective-style story, Archer Danger Island, which I really enjoyed actually, and then that took us into Archer 1999, the third and last Coma season. And I really did like that one the best, with a sort of 70s style interpretation of a science fiction space drama, and production is arguably the best it's ever been for that particular season, with so many incredible illustrations, beautiful backgrounds, and reinventing certain characters, such as Pam as a giant alien muscle smashing stuff. I thought that was brilliant. And one of my personal favourites was Barry from the original series, now a villainous droid joined by various aliens and robots. One of them that I really liked was called Funbeak. I really wish that character had been used a little bit more.
Say hello, Funbeak.
Hello, Funbeak.
And I love the sequences of Archer losing his mind in this season, where the dream is collapsing to an extent. Seeing glimpses of the known reality replacing anything that was in relation to the space and the sci-fi stuff, which then takes us into Season 11, where Archer finally wakes up from the coma. Season 11 was quite interesting, getting back to the more usual style of Archer storytelling, where 3 years have passed and Sterling Archer has a lot of catching up to do, as do we, the audience, where there are so many major changes to the characters that we know and love, and Archer no longer fits in amongst his colleagues and friends. Lana is married, Cyril is now the perfect sort of field agent taking Archer's place, and everyone just feels better off without him, but Archer typically worms his way back into the scene, into the missions, and continues to be part of the crew. Overall, it's great for the majority as far as the individual episodes go and the stories that they bring forth, but the finale was a little bit of a letdown, but had one redeeming quality, and that was some very weird coma dream flashes where Archer starts seeing bits of the space-themed stuff in place of the real-life characters that he is obviously a part of. I'm hoping that gets furthered in some way. I don't really know if there's any further context to that in Season 12, but I'm very excited to see if that is going forward and if Archer is literally losing his mind, perhaps. And wrapping up this video, we have a couple of movies, first of which being a sequel that I never thought we would ever get, and that is Borat's subsequent movie film. Very unexpected to say the least. Kept very secretive to my surprise, released onto Amazon Prime in 2020, and continues as a bizarre kind of hidden camera prank film involving the ludicrously hilarious character of Borat, where he revisits America on behalf of Kazakhstan, wanting to learn even more about the American culture. This time, however, he is paired with his own daughter, adding even more unconventional comedy to this sort of film. And honestly, I thought they had brilliant on-screen chemistry. It's not a bad sequel, but to be honest, a lot of it felt kind of forced, and it involves a lot of things that I feel the vast majority of audiences would prefer to forget, such as themes relating to the US political system at this point in time, and obviously the COVID-19 pandemic as well, of which I did actually really love the movie poster for this, mimicking the original film's movie poster, where rather than Borat wearing the mankini, he's wearing literally a mask in the same fashion. And last up we have the film Funny Pages, which was written and directed by Owen Kline, another movie that I watched on Amazon which came up in my recommended feed. And even though I liked the themes and the concepts surrounding this film felt unfinished. It just felt like half a movie, where we follow an aspiring cartoonist, Robert, played by Daniel Zagadri, and I really enjoyed the scenes involving him, where, with this being a black comedy, we see him good at drawing and wanting to pursue this career further, but everything is just out and against him, which I thought was an interesting concept that has been done time and time again, but I like the black comedy aspects of him being beaten down but still persevering. We're trying to pursue this career, and so with him being good at drawing, which is something that he does in his free time, He gets a part-time job in a law office to try and fund living expenses. And this is where he comes across an illustrator that he is familiar with called Wallace, played by Matthew Maher. And I really loved the acting for that character in particular. I wanted to know more about him, but rather than really giving us more interesting tidbits of that character, this illustrator that he's familiar with is an absolute nutcase. And when Robert wants to learn more about illustration and wants to gain more skills from this man, he invites him over for Christmas, where he basically assaults the entire family, including Robert, and just leaves the premises and leaves Robert stuck outside in the middle of nowhere.
You have no right to interfere in my life!
Yeah, I would use the word unhinged to describe this character for sure. Something that wasn't really overly explored in the film either, which is very disappointing. But leaving Robert in the middle of nowhere, Robert runs to a place that he considers to be safe or safety, and that being a comic shop that he temporarily worked at. And he runs there, starts crying, hides behind the counter, and that's where the film ends. It's a very short movie, and I was very puzzled, thinking, well, that surely can't be it. Turns out that was it. Really disappointing ending. This film had a lot of interesting bits of not only dark comedy, but so many great story layers that could have been furthered a little bit more to give us a kinda resolution rather than this just being left so open and uninspired. Very disappointing. I liked a lot of what the film had in terms of technical tropes as well. It's a film from 2022, but it's made to look like a 90s movie, which added a little bit of that sort of forced nostalgia. I thought that was quite good for this sort of film, but beyond that, I was overall very deflated by what this film had to offer. Not really something I would recommend. And so that's going to do it looking at titles I have recently streamed. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you would like to see crop up in one of these videos, anything that you would perhaps recommend. And for more content, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel at DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?